Hey, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. It's nice that we are currently experiencing still blue skies in London.
Yes, after a couple of rainy days.
Yeah, after a couple of rainy days, actually, it's been nice to enjoy the weather again. But I guess that's what all Brits do, is they talk about the weather.
Yeah, massively.
They do. Anyway, so obviously we're here today to speak to you, to find everything out about what's happened and your story and your journey. So the mic is over to you.
So when I was 21, I was playing rugby for a team called Ealing Trailfinders. And in the game, I got tackled and I broke my leg. I broke my tib fib. And then I went to the local hospital, had an operation called a nailing, which is basically where they put a nail through your front bone. And within 6 to 8 weeks, you're meant to be back running, playing, walking, back to normal life pretty much. And unfortunately, I got something called compartment syndrome, which is just where your leg swells and that stops the blood flow. And then that's meant to be operated in 6 to 8 hours, release that pressure, and everything's back to, like, you might lose a little bit, but everything's pretty much back to normal. And unfortunately, the hospital was out, waited 5 days. So by the time they then eventually opened everything up, I think it died, all my muscle, had a lot of muscle wastage. Where my tendons were attached, they all became like detached.
You say with a smile on your face.
And yeah, well, I've got some cool photos of it all. But,
no, send me them, I want to see.
I will. But yeah, so then everything happened, and I was then eventually told at Ealing Hospital about a week and a half later, oh, it's fine, we're just going to send you to St Mary's in London, you're going to have a skin graft, you're going to come back the same day, and we'll be able to then discharge you, you'll have a bit of physio, and you should be back walking pretty well, and we'll see where you're at. I got to St Mary's Hospital, where I met the surgeon, and he was like, Ben, look, I'm going to be really honest with you. We're very close to losing your leg right now. You've still got a lot of dead muscle in there. Your bone's nowhere near healed. I've done a swab. I'm pretty scared it's infected. So he then sent all that stuff off and did his medical jazz. And I went into an operation and woke up that evening. And they were like, look, we're going to keep you here. We found a few more things that were wrong. Some of my nerves had been severed, unfortunately. And yeah, so then I went through I was in St Mary's that first time, I think it was about 3 months. I went through about 12 operations, just trying to sort everything out, get rid of all the dead muscle, trying to keep it clean. And eventually they discharged me, and I was happy I was allowed home. And then, yeah, within 3 weeks, I got sepsis, just from where the metalwork had originally been infected. It just took a bit of time due to when I was in hospital being on antibiotics. It took a bit of time to come on. And I was at home and I was like, I'm not going back to hospital. I'm not doing it. And my parents were like, oh, okay, this is your choice. Like, and I was like, look, I'm 21. I'm an adult now. I'm not going back. And they were like, I think we should get a set, like, come on, let's go. And I waited a week. I managed to convince them, but like on that, I had to be carried to the car. Like, my body was shutting down. So maybe, moral of the story, I should listen to them, but don't tell them that.
Yeah, it's like kids listen to parents.
Yeah, but don't, but do.
Don't, but do. There is a point where I know I've done it before. It's like, well, you know, I'm this age now.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't make a decision for
Suddenly
myself.
You're like, oh, I'm an adult. I have freedom.
Yeah, you forget.
Your parents are still trying to tell you like how you were when you were 10, and like, no.
Exactly.
But, so yeah, they love to remind me of that fact.
Sure.
But yeah, so I went back in. So then I had to have the metalwork removed because that was what's infected and the bone wasn't healing. And I had something called a Xfix cage put on, which is basically, so instead of having metalwork in your body, it's all on the outside and it just drills in. So it's like 2 halo rings that go around your leg, and then you've just got rods going in. And it's a bit like a Meccano set.
Okay.
That on the outside you get given a spanner,
Mm-hmm.
and like each day there's numbers on the outside, and you've got to tighten or loosen it to maneuver your bone.
Okay.
So I was in that then for 6 months. They are horrible.
Mm-hmm.
They are tough things, and like feeling your bone move across bone and knowing that you're doing it is it's pretty grim to say the least. But yeah, that was a tough time to get through that bit, because I really saw that I wasn't able to move about. I got back in the gym, I got back deadlifting, and through like the rugby club, they were amazing. And through my old physio, Jacob, he smashed out the park, and we were back in with the boys and lifting weight. But yeah, so I got back lifting all that, and through my Instagram you can sort of see that there was one day I could barely squat without holding a crutch, and suddenly I was back deadlifting a couple of weeks. Like, it was pretty decent. But went back in January and January or February time of 2019, and had the Xfix all removed. And what we realised was the bone hadn't fully healed, but there was enough of it there that it was sort of stable. But because there was nothing left of my ankle and sort of lower leg, the second we took all the pins and the fixings away, it just sort of flapped about. It, like, I had no control over it. It couldn't really do anything on it. I was in one of those moon boots, like the grey ones. They've got the airbags. Yeah. But I could only walk like 200 metres in it.
Okay.
So I was pretty restricted to everything I was doing, and just I was trying to fill my time whilst I was rehabbing. And then I was like to my surgeon, I was like, look, I can't personally live like this. I'm quite active. I like to get out and about. I can't, you'll probably notice it now that I can't sit still. I like to spin. Yeah, you'll just see me the whole time like wee. But like, yeah, so I just couldn't live like that, and I was just like, look, I need to. I've researched that I can have it amputated. Below knee, it's quite well. I can get back running. I can get back in the gym. I can get back just if I want to go for a walk, I can go for a walk. And he was like, look, it's not as simple as that. You're gonna have still some issues, but I agree, that's probably the best route for you. But then we had to go through trying to convince the NHS. Basically, the way it was sort of explained to me is you're a number at the end of the day, and over your lifetime you're going to cost so much in averages of you should really have this many trips to hospital, or you're going to if I have my leg amputated, my price increases. So they want to do everything that they can before it's the last resort, because they know that I will cost the system more in the long run. Okay. So that's how it was sort of explained to me, and I was then just like, I get that, but I need to do this. And he was like, no, look, I agree. And he started fighting for it tooth and nail, and so did his team of surgeons. And eventually, 3 months later, we got it through the board of wise men who make all these decisions. And yeah, I had my amputation in August 2019. So just had my anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much. But yeah, so I was then through that. That was a big day for me, to be fair. I walked into the operating theatre in this moon boot, got wheeled out to intensive care 8 hours later. But yeah, so that's then just the start of where my real rehab kicked in, which was weird because I'd done so much rehab with the rugby club. When they had pre-season, I was allowed back in, and I went through their pre-season with them, working, and Jacob would just be setting me ridiculous stuff to do, and yeah, so then I then had to lay there. I was in for 2 weeks because I had my infection sort of kicked up again, so I was back on antibiotics, and they were like, look, this is now where it counts. So I put a lot of work in and got walking within 6 weeks. Got into my first prosthetic, and which is averagely quite high. It's quite quick. Not that I'm proud of it or anything, but it's averagely quite quick.
It's fine. You're allowed to drop that in. It's fine.
I thought subtly it would work.
It doesn't always subtly work, but you know, you can make them as subtle as possible, but you know.
Yeah. So yeah, like I was then just rehabbing every day at Charing Cross Hospital in it's technically Fulham. And yeah, got back, rehabbed for a good 8 months, I think it was, before I got like fully walking without crutches, got back to a good position. And then obviously, so then I got in contact through rugby with a charity called the Matt Hampson Foundation. And Matt was a rugby player. He used to play for Leicester Tigers, and he was in England under 21 camp, and they were doing live scrums. And the old rules for scrums is obviously they wouldn't bind beforehand; they'd just go at each other sort of as hard as possible. And there it collapsed onto his neck and broke his neck. So now he's unfortunately paralysed from just below the break, and all the down he's on a ventilator. But he set up this amazing foundation where they're just trying to help people who had life-changing injuries. And yeah, so they picked me up, and they were having this day at Loughborough, and they were like, just come along. I went there and I met a coach. I met one of the head of parasport there, and them finding out that I used to play rugby and that I'm quite sporty, they're like, okay, this is quite interesting for us. And then my coach got involved, and he was like, no, I want you to come here. So yeah, then the pandemic hit.
Yeah, everyone knows that.
So we had the long wait at home, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen, obviously. And suddenly I got a phone call in like July, and it was like, oh, do you want to move up to Loughborough next month and start training? And I was like, yeah, cool, why not? Let's crack on. So yeah, I got a blade made, and off I went and started running. So that's pretty much me.
No, that's I like the pretty much started running, so that's a good line. And obviously, where are you now with regards to things like that?
So I've now just retired at the old age of 25. I'm a retiree.
Hey, everyone's got to do it.
Get my armchair at home, gonna see what life is. Golf courses.
Yeah, you do play golf. You just spent 2 days playing golf.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough life. But no, yeah, I just had an amazing 2 days at the Belfry for the foundation. So I was really lucky with that. But yeah, I went into sport probably in hindsight too quickly now. Straight back into professional sport and gymming 3-4 times a week, plus then run days. Like you're sprinting, you're exerting a lot from your body. And I have issues sleeping, just pain through my stump and stuff. So what was happening was I'd train, I wouldn't recover, I'd train again, and that cycle just broke my body. From long-term crutches use, I'm a bit rounded over, so sort of my back and my shoulders is arched a little bit, just from where the muscles have tightened from where I've been on crutches. I've got 2 trapped nerves, one each side, so I wake up and it's a bit like numb arms, get like the whole, start trying to flap them about to get blood flow and get the old pins and needles going. And then I've inflamed my fasciate joints down the back of my spine. Okay. So I'm really in a good place, fit and healthy. But yeah, no, I've got to have an operation now on my stump and take a bit of time to get my body actually into a good place. Which means that I've missed the 2024 Paralympics, which was my first big goal. So for me, it's a bit of a where I am, unfortunately, how old I am. I would be knocking on the door of probably 30, 31 by the time that the Paralympics in LA come around, which is probably not too viable for me, unfortunately. So,
I mean, never say never.
Never say never, and I am going to look back into other sports, etc. But my first primary concern right now is body, health, and then just see what happens.
I think that is what happens with, I'm going to say a lot of people, is that when you start to feel like you are getting, let's say, better, and I'll say it like that because, you know, in whatever it is and kind of whatever has happened to somebody, when you feel like you are getting to a place where you feel good enough to do that again, that's where a lot of the time you want to rush into it, and there will be like 98% of people telling you not to do it.
Yeah.
But you're like, I'm going to do it anyway because I feel like I can. And that, you know, it's an interesting thing as well. You know, when after my knee surgeries and I started to want to I was going to the gym and I was, you know, squatting heavier and I was trying to slowly push myself that bit more. And I had so many people saying, Talia, slow down. No, but I don't want to slow down, Talia, slow down. And it's you don't realize it because you start to feel that you can do this again. You know, if you've been out of whatever it is for such a long time, and once you could start to almost taste it again, you just want to keep going. And it's the people around you that say, no, slow down. Think about the long term rather than right here in the moment. Yeah,
massively. And I think like when you know, so for me, I knew who I was before.
Yeah.
I knew how much I could squat, how much I could bench, how much I could lift. I knew those numbers. Suddenly I got back.
With a smirk.
I suddenly got back in the gym and I was like, I can't lift that anymore.
Yeah.
I can't do that. And you're like, no, I want to lift that. I want to lift those numbers again. Just because like a bit of an ego thing and a bit of like just that you want to get back to where you were.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to sort of feel you're that person again.
Yeah.
Even though like you look at it and I've changed so much and I'm now a different person, probably a lot more rounded, and so many like benefits and good things has happened to me out of what's happened. But at the same time, I knew the numbers, like I've got a real fixation on numbers and gym.
Yeah.
So like the gym was like my safe place and where I'd go, and I just look, and then you'd get there and you'd just be like, oh, I want to lift again. And I like my S&C coach, Lapra, I think like genuinely, I think he hated me, but he loved me, but he hated me. Because every time like he was like, all right, let's look at technique. And I was like, yeah, sure. He was like, let's drop the weight. And I was like, no. And he'd walk away and I'd suddenly put some plates back on. And he'd be like, Ben, come on. Yeah. And then I was like, yeah, but I've got it out my system now. And he's like, let's look at technique. And I was like, I'm a bit tired.
Yeah. It's really funny that you say that. No, it is. It's really funny because when I was starting to go heavier with my squats, and I was saying to my physio, oh, please can I go heavier? No, Talia, technique. Oh, but please can I go heavier? Yeah. And then I got to a point where I did go heavier for a few weeks and I didn't tell him. I have told him now. I told him the other day. But for a few weeks I was going heavier. And I wasn't telling him because I knew. I didn't want to tell him. Yeah. And I actually saw him the other day, my physio, and Colin. And I saw Colin the other day and I said to him, oh, by the way, I was going a bit heavier because he was reading my program. He said, so we're still on 20 kilograms? I was like, no. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, I went heavier. He was fine. Yeah. He was fine. He was like, how long have you been heavier? And I was like, a while. You know, I just didn't want to tell you. But here, I'm telling you now. Yeah.
It's like that old, better to ask for forgiveness
than
it is permission. That old one. But like, yeah, like I'd sit there and every morning, so you'd get into the gym for like 9 a.m, you'd start to warm up, and that's when the S&Cs would come in and you'd have a quick chat with them and you'd sort of be there like, I've seen my program today. That's cool. Yeah. And then you'd go do it and they'd be like, it's not written down, Ben, is it? And I'm like, no. But it looks good, doesn't it? Yeah. And they're like, no. Yeah. But like, from their point of view, there's a process, there's a, but it's that mentality thing of where you're like, I used to do this. Yeah. I used to squat this amount and I used to squat that amount. And an ego thing to a degree is that you want to get back to that and you want to sort of be the person that you were before. Because one thing is that you don't want to be defined by what's happened to you, but you have to be defined by what's happened to you because you have to own it. So it's one of those like hard mixes of getting it right. But I think like human instinct, especially for me, was like, you want those numbers back.
I think it's you're really fixated on the numbers.
Yeah,
I think
you
it's
can
one
see the issues. That
yeah, I can see it's processing still.
Yeah.
I can see you still figuring it all out. But I think that's what it is. It's acceptance it's acceptance of this is my situation. And you said about, you know, wanting to get back to normal again, or getting back to yourself. And I think what I've learned is you do get back to a normal, but it's a new normal. You get back to because what has happened and what you've been through, you know, some people don't want to remember it, and they don't want to talk about it, and they'd rather not. But it's one of those things where, like you said, it is accepting, and it's owning it, and it's saying, okay, this is what happened to me.
Yeah.
You know, whatever, everyone's story is different, and this is what's happened to me, and okay, it is now part of my life, and that doesn't necessarily define, you know. Some people will let it define them, and that's fine. If people want to, that's, you know, absolutely, that's fine. But it doesn't have to define you, and it is how do you create this new normal and this basically this next chapter of life.
Yeah, and it's all like a learning process.
Yeah,
life as a whole is a learning process. And I think if you, like, for example, now to swing out of bed, I've got to put a leg on. It still makes me laugh to say it, but like you have to put a leg on, and. Or like if I go for a long drive and I've got mates in the car or something, I'll be like, oh, can someone pass me my leg? Like, just so I can get out of the car, because I don't wear my leg when I drive. And it's just like, oh, it's just new stuff. Like, you just got to adapt. And I think that's the biggest thing, is learning to adapt. And like, people always have gone to me, oh, you were so strong through this, you were so strong through that. And I was like, yeah, but I wasn't. You, like, A, you didn't see the dark moments, but B, I was just adapting, and I was just learning to adapt. And it's not like for example, walking, I've learned how to walk again. So now I can walk again. So now it's back to like normal. But it's all about just learning and adapting, and that's what I found is like the biggest thing. Yeah,
and I think you can learn from other people and similar or even dissimilar situations. You know, everybody learns from each other. But it is, at the end of the day, you teaching yourself and figuring out what's right and wrong for you. You know, one thing that you do might not be the same for somebody else. And it is throughout the recovery, it is learning the adaptations. But also, like you said, it's the dark moments, and people don't, talk about the dark moments, or don't always see the dark moments. And those are the times when it can feel very lonely.
Oh, massive, yeah. I had a really dark patch when I had that cage on my leg, and I basically just couldn't see life going on, and I couldn't see how I was going to get back to any sort of area or situation that was going to be good, or that I could accept, or I could enjoy. And like, it got to the point where I got to like really close to suicide, and I've written like the note to my family and stuff like that to say, oh, like I'm gonna go now, and like really sorry, but I can't do this, and all of that sort of stuff. So, but then I was really lucky that I've got a really good support network, and just as that sort of was happening, they accepted the decision to have my leg amputated. So then suddenly I was like, oh, there's actually another route here. I can go learn, I can go. But like during that time, I didn't talk to anyone about that. Yeah. I wasn't talking to anyone. There was probably a few, like, people could probably maybe tell if they was around me for long enough, because I wasn't that chatty. Yeah. I wasn't going out. I was quite happy just to, well, I not that I could really go out too much, but like if someone had texted me going, oh, do you want to come for food? I'll pick you up, or something like that. One of my mates, I'd probably text back and be like, no. Yeah. I'm just gonna stay in tonight. And then, yeah, like, you try and get through it, and you try and just stick a brave face on it when you are around people. But you're just there, like, suffering. And I remember we went and watched Ealing play, and I was around a lot of my mates, and we were having it was a bit of a boozy one, should we say, even though I was not probably meant to be drinking, but life goes on. And we were like, yeah, just cracking on, having a good time. And I just remember I was just looking at over that. So we stand where like the pitch is, there's like a balcony bit. We all stand on that balcony, and watch over, and I just remember like I just started daydreaming. I wasn't even like looking at the game. I was just there, just like in like that sort of drunk haze of just, what am I doing? Like, is this literally, I can sit here and watch a rugby match. I can then go back to bed, and then tomorrow what am I going to do? I'm going to stay in bed all day. And I was just like, it's not for me. And that's where it turned. But then like everyone was around, they were having a right laugh and just cracking on, and you snap out of it and start chatting again. Put that face back on, I guess, is what it is. And then yeah, eventually I got the decision, and I've got some really good mates who aren't within like that rugby sphere, and they're sort of, one of them's a retired police officer now, and sort of all of that, and he brought a lot of perspective to my life, and I then just sat down with him and I was like, look, this is where I'm at, this is the decision I've got to make. And he was like, right, let's just sit, let's just chat. And we sat for like probably hours, and yeah, that then suddenly like I was like, oh, there's a way. And by talking, I know I probably seem quite chatty, but in terms of things that when I'm going through them, I won't talk, and I hate talking. I'm gonna like, it's just tough, and I hate opening up. And then I was like, oh, had that chat, and I was like, why did I not have that chat? 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks, like whenever. I was there, and I was just like, actually, I feel so much better. And I know like everyone that you see sort of says that, but it's genuinely true. It's genuinely like a weight just came off, and I was just like, Jesus, like, okay, I went and hid like everything that I'd written and all of that sort of stuff. And I was like, okay, let's just crack on. And I've said it to him a couple of times now, where I was like, mate, you genuinely saved my life. And he was just like, oh no, like, he shrugs it off, but genuinely, like, he saved my life, and that's the reason, that chat and those then subsequent chats that we had, and just how good of a mate he is, that within that time that he was the one that sort of pulled me out of that hole. So I was really lucky.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is people don't want to talk a lot, and they don't want to say what's happened, and sometimes not even about what it is that's happened. Sometimes people don't want to talk about what's going on in their head, and if it is, it gets to the point where they don't want to be here anymore. But you are right, I know everyone says it, and it almost sounds like it's a cliche when people say speak out, but it's not a cliche, because speaking out actually saves lives.
Yeah, and like, so then due to that, my whole time at Loughborough, I spoke to the sports psychologist that they've got there, just to make sure that I was never going to go back to a bad place. And now I speak to somebody else as well through the foundation, just because I know that then every little thing like builds up, and it could be nothing related to my leg, but you've still got everyday problems, everyday life problems, same as anyone else. And then on top of that, like, one day I can wake up and I just can't get my leg on. I gotta hop about all day, or get in a wheelchair or crutches or anything like that, and it just adds and adds and adds, and they're all just little bricks that sort of build, and eventually that wall's going to get too big that it's not going to be able to stand, and it's going to topple, and that's when you break. And by now, always making sure that I've got someone there that I can chat to, who like one of my biggest things is that they're removed, like, they're sort of removed from my life. So like, I think that was like one of the big things now for me, is that I can sort of get on with life. I'm not, whenever I now see my mates, I'm not there going, oh, and you feel like you're bringing down the mood, or because I can just crack on with them now, because I've got somebody else who's there, and whenever I need them, like, I could go get in the car now and give them a call, and they'll just be like, oh yeah, how are you? Yeah, let's have a chat, crack on. And just having that person and that avenue, and being able to have those conversations are so important, so important, and they're really what sort of help you through those moments when you think, what am I doing? What's going to happen? And like for me now, I've just retired from sport. I've had probably my next 10 years planned out of going to the Paris Paralympics, going to LA Paralympics, all the little like major champs in between. Knowing exactly what I'm doing, where I'm living. Like I'm now back to a place where I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I like? Yeah, right. I get to go play golf, and I get to, go
You're
do.
tired, remember?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I need to put my feet up. But yeah, no, like so. I'm now back to a place where, not lost, but I'm not found, because I don't know what I want to do with my life, and I don't know where I want to go even. But I've got, where I've been really lucky is that I've had these people now that I can go speak to, and I'm like, yeah, look, I last night, it hit me. And I was like, I realised that I'm never gonna get that gold medal. I'm never gonna be able to achieve the dream that I wanted to achieve. And then you chat through it with them, and you're like, yeah, right, that makes sense. That's okay. I feel a bit better.
Yeah.
And then you just carry on looking for opportunities, and you just carry on doing what you're doing. And so yeah, it's always good to have somebody there to chat to.
And I think that's also interesting what you said, is it's when your plan, because everyone has plans, and everyone has week plans, month plans, year plans.
Yeah.
And I think people don't realise is that, I would say more times than not, the plans don't happen, and they get shifted or they get changed, and that's a lot of the time when people then do get they get into a state, or they go into a dark place because their plans change. And I think it's okay to understand and to realise that plans do change, and whatever the circumstances are, yes, they've changed, but it's okay. Well, they've changed. So how am I going to move on from this? How am I now going to adapt, change my perspective? And almost, sometimes when the plans change, greater things come from it. And people don't always see that when it's happening.
No, yeah, massive. And I think, like, we were having a chat earlier, obviously, about social media. You see this perfect life of this person, whoever it may be. They've got this, they've got that, they've got their house, they've got, oh, look, they're on holiday again. Sunning it up, yeah. And you're like, that's what I want. So I need to go work. And suddenly, like, you panic and you get into sort of a state where you're like, oh, the social pressures sort of come in, and you're like, oh, I need this, I need that, I want this, I want that. But actually, to realise, if you just step back and relax and, okay, it may be stressful, but something is going to happen and something is going to come. And if you work for it, and you look at the opportunities you've got, and you take the time to assess where you're at, that's probably the biggest thing. Because what I've been told and what I've sort of seen with a few people is they rush. And suddenly, like, so for example, in my situation, I was retired, and then suddenly an opportunity, if it came up, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. And you go fully into it. Could be the complete wrong opportunity. Or what's happened, you panicked because you've got, rent to pay, you've got bills to pay, you've got all of that. So it's one of those funny, like I was saying before, if so when I had my like amputation, I did that photo a day or video a day for the gram.
For the gram.
Just doing it for the gram.
So that is a phrase now, for the ground.
I thought I'd keep like this podcast relevant.
No, it is. It's for the ground. This is going on the ground. It's all the ground.
But honestly, that was horrific. Yeah. Like, I'm not a social media person. I don't know how people sit in front of these fancy lights and, as I say, doing it. But like, genuinely do that all day, every day. And that was tough. That was really tough, like putting on that like happy face of, oh, yeah guys, look at me, I'm sitting up in bed today, or like, oh, I'm doing this, or But it was a great way that everyone could then follow my story, and it was amazing, like the connections I got out of it. And like the people that you maybe don't talk to that much, but you do talk to,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. They could follow it really happily. But at the same time, it was a pain.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. And that's also an interesting point, is about not rushing, because I think a lot of people, especially I think the younger and younger people are getting now, is they feel like they need to have the right partner, and then the right job, and the right lifestyle, and the right house, all by a certain age now. And I think it doesn't matter if your friends are doing it, even if your family are doing it. Everyone's on a different path.
Massively.
And it doesn't matter what age you get to the things you want. If you want certain things, you will get them, if that's what you want, and you keep striving and working towards it. But it's not, just because your mate got the perfect XYZ by that age, you might not get that. Yeah. And I think it's also one of those things to realise is that, and that's okay if you don't get it by that age, because you'll get it when you're ready to get it.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's not rushing, and it's not just taking things because that's what you want.
Yeah.
It's doing things that are right for you.
Yeah, and realising that you're on that different pathway, that different journey. And like one of my journeys, I completed Netflix.
Yes.
So just there about
exactly
for 8 months. So I was just like happily watched it all. But yeah, so it's just realising that like, then maybe when your mates, this is going to sound really bad, when your mates want to watch something and you've already watched it, they're on a different like journey. But like, as much as I might take, like, making a bit, using that, it's probably not the best example, but
it's an example.
That's like, you just sort of have to just take it as it comes and roll with the punches. That is what happens, and just take it easy.
Yeah. I still really enjoy the fact that you completed Netflix. We discussed it earlier, and I really still enjoy. And to hear somebody say I completed Netflix, it's almost one of those like, "Hi, I completed Netflix."
Oh, it's on my CV. It's like first thing. Like, it's probably going to go in my
achievements.
Yeah, put it in my bio and Insta.
You should. I want to see it after. I'm going to check on Instagram
LinkedIn,
after.
I'm going to create like my LinkedIn. I'm going to be like,
completed Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix done.
I feel like it needs like mate at the end, like completed Netflix mate. You know how sometimes people say that? I don't know why. It needs that at the end. One of those things. And I do just want to ask, what was your favourite Netflix show or film out of the plenty?
Film probably was The Highwayman, which was like a Netflix own series, well, not series, film. And basically how they caught Bonnie and Clyde. So I really enjoyed. But then like I enjoy anything that's based on a true story. So all the sporting ones, on Prime obviously, got all those All or Nothing series. Yeah. Did all them. So yeah. Series wise, I did Friends again. That was a big shift. Yeah. The enjoyment part of it was I did Harry Potter's in like 4 days.
Nice.
Or something. I did it like literally back to back because I was only sleeping for like 2 hours at a time.
Yeah, in between the films.
Yeah, so I literally do a film, nap, and that just carried on for the 7 or 8 films that there are of them. So yeah, like it's just nice to be able to, like, a good distraction. Yeah. But now I can say that I've completed Netflix.
Yeah, but that's the thing, now you go home tonight and it's like, what do I watch? Completed it. Completed it. Oh, no, I saw that as well.
Thankfully, there's new stuff on there.
Yeah. Thankfully, that's there.
Someone's been working hard enough. They realise that I've completed
it. They did it for you.
Let's put another movie on.
Oh, Ben again.
Yeah, this
one's for him.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you'll be in the like top percentage of users.
Well, if you probably look at the account and the amount of hours watched it, it's probably quite up there.
Yeah, well, this one is for Netflix. If you are watching this, have a look at his profile. I want to see what his stats are compared to, someone else's, mine. So yeah, no, it's awesome. Is there anything else that you want to mention or discuss?
I think, no, I don't think so.
No, that's good. I just want to ask though, if you have any advice for, again, I know everyone's story is different, and that's the point of this, is everyone has a very different story, but I feel like everyone in their own way, even if it's a word or a sentence or a phrase or a hobby, everyone can relate in some shape or form. So I know it's quite a generalized thing, and obviously it doesn't have to be generalized, but if you have advice for just, I think anyone that's going through something, a really tough time, and, you know, maybe even a point of, you know, maybe wanting to give up, but what would you say to not?
Talk. I think that's the biggest thing, is even, like, as I said, having someone removed. So if you're not comfortable chatting to somebody, so like for me personally, I was never going to discuss what I was going to do in terms of my like suicide stuff with either like my family or close friends, because that was until like Scotty sort of brought it up, because he was like, oh look, I can see it in you, and I was like, oh, because he obviously through his line of work he knew the signs and all of that sort of stuff. But until that happened, I was never going to talk about it. But now having someone, like, if you're not comfortable talking to somebody that's within your main circle, there's loads of people out there who will listen. Like, even if it's on the Insta, like, get in touch with me, I'll listen, because I've been there, I've done it, and I know how dark and horrible it is. So just have someone that's maybe removed from your circle, who obviously will be confidential, and then you can open up. And once you've opened up once, you'll feel so much better, and you just have that weight gone, and you may not get the answers that you want right there and then. It's not going to be like what's 15 plus 5? You write down the answer, they're like correct. Okay, but it's going to be like you're suddenly going to start to have a conversation about things and start to understand the whys and the whats and how it's happening, and okay, this has happened, but what can we do about it? What's next? How can we overcome this obstacle? And again, you might not get the answers, but by chatting through it, you can start to like envision it a bit better, and hopefully bring yourself out of that place and start to move on in a positive way.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where if plan A or B or C don't go to plan, that was great English. But it's if you know your first A, B, C, it doesn't go the way you want it to, there is still D, E, F, G, you know, there's still many different routes and avenues and ways that you can do something if the first even 10 don't go the way you want.
No, 100%. And I love that you've got the alphabet in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well
It's a learning curve for everyone. See? And then it gets to LMNOP.
Oh, it's still going.
LMNOP. No,
go on,
it's
finish it. Go on.
It's not LM. Remember, you cannot do that as a kid.
No.
You got to A, B, C. I'm going to do this now. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, LMNOP. Did you never say it like that?
I was never bright enough to get through the alphabet.
Not even LMNOP. It's the way it just flows. No. Okay. Oh, I might just stop it there. This is where it stops. That's the point. You know what? And that's something I've learned. I've learned in life, especially, and I think especially with what I've been through over the last year, because it was my anniversary of my accident in August as well. So both of us having August anniversaries.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you. But what I learned, so mine was, you know, just over a year ago now. But what I learned is, it's also not taking yourself too seriously. And it's almost just saying yes to life, and maybe not everything, you know, some things you don't say yes to, but you know, it's saying yes to life, and it's not taking yourself too seriously, and it's almost laughing at things.
You have to laugh at it. And I was really lucky that I had a good, obviously, rugby culture. You do just laugh at it, and like within a week of having my leg amputated, I got bought one of those Halloween sort of like body part legs. And they were like, oh Ben, we've got your replacement leg. And they just gave it to me, and I was just in hospital then with this fake leg, and the nurses and stuff were like coming around, and I was just there like, oh, got my leg back. And they were like, no, you haven't. I was like, oh, you haven't understood this, have you? But like, so and then one of the lads, he he kept on my Instagram, I'd post like, I'd go canoeing and he'd be like, oh, did you see that shark again? Is that how you lost your leg?
Yeah.
Or like, I'd go, I don't even know, like he'd just find a way every day, just as a laugh, just to like, but that's what you need. You need to be able to laugh about it and just have that sense of humour and find it. You have to find it funny at the end of the day.
Yeah.
For me personally, I do. And like, you have to find the pluses. Like, I can now drink beer out my leg. I don't need a glass.
Nice.
Easy win in life.
Yeah.
And then you just have to find like the pluses. Obviously, that's not a real plus, but before someone like, probably takes that the wrong way. But no, you just have to find like, you can still do everything. You can still like live your life, and just have to find a new way, and that's all. Yeah,
it's all the different ways of doing things.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's us done. So it's been nice to, like we just said about laughing about the certain things. I feel like it's been a lot of laughs, which is nice, because obviously before we even started recording, we sat down and we basically went through each other's stories together.
Yeah.
And then we just sit here and we can just laugh about them again. So, but that's what, like you just said as well, there is something so pure about humor, and something so pure about laughing about, obviously, some people may never laugh about certain things, which is totally okay.
Exactly.
Some people don't want to, but sometimes finding the humor in whatever's happened, whenever you get to a certain point, in a way it does help sometimes.
Yeah, and it heals. Yeah. I find personally, humour heals, and it's a good way to like sort of not burn the bridges, but like I can't think of the saying.
You need some help.
Yeah, English isn't my strong point, as you may be able to tell. No, but it's a good way of just being able to also make everyone at ease.
Yeah.
And I think then everyone's like, oh, when everyone's having a laugh, everyone's sort of a bit more relaxed, and that's what I find with humour and just being able to personally have a laugh about my leg. It just puts everyone at ease, and it's a good like icebreaker. Yeah, no, I get exactly what you mean. No, that makes a lot of sense. Not that I vocalised it very well, but there you go. You know what? You did. You did vocalise it well, and don't worry, I understood, and people will understand. So don't worry, because it makes sense. It's you got the phrase correct. It's almost like an icebreaker. It's like, okay, yes, I've been through this, and sometimes when people do tell their story or something that's happened, like people's faces and sometimes the shock or the which is, again, is fine. Everyone reacts to situations very differently. But there is that point of humour where if you start laughing, and then they're a bit like, the face changes, and they're a lot more eased, and then it's easier. For sure. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's been a pleasure chatting to you and laughing. So it was my pleasure. Thank you for coming. And that's it. Amazing.